Good morning, Andrew. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Ruth?
Very well. Um, so it seems that the internet in school wasn't working, so you've had to rush home to do this, which I really do appreciate. Thank you so much for making the time and being flexible and being adaptable. So ideally, we would be in the same room, but alas, that's not to be today. Um, so this is Destination Education. We're talking about UK education, and I hope that you've got lots of wisdom to share with us today.
Well, I'll
Um,
try to impart that, except I have no technological information when it comes to IT, alas, but I'll give that my best go-to.
yeah, we'll learn for next time. Maybe some of the schools' Wi-Fi is obviously a lot more secure than normal, which as it should be. So, Andrew, let me start by asking you, stepping out of your shoes as an educator for a moment. I presume that you went to school and you were educated in the UK. Can you tell me about that?
So my education was in the state sector. So currently in my current role, I'm the head of an independent school, but we'll come back to that, I'm sure, later on. But my own
Yeah.
education has been in the States, and I was a cathedral chorister. So I went to a boarding school when I was older, slightly older. And after my boarding school experience, I stayed at that senior school and went on to university. But all of my experience educationally has, yeah, absolutely been in the state sector. And three of my headships have been in the state sector, with only two of them being in the independent sector.
So, well, that leads me into what do you notice as the key differences then?
Well, the wonderful thing is children are children and they have a desire and thirst for knowledge and understanding. And it's up to us as adults and educationists to inspire them to be able to want to learn more, be curious and inquisitive around that. And parts of that involves a different form of entertainment, depending on what those relationships, what the quality of the teacher's questioning in so many different parts of it would ascertain to lead to high levels of academic progress. So children are broadly children, and they want to learn stuff that they want to learn. So it's up to
Mm.
us as educators to make them learn. There are some differences, however, between the state and independent. The level of resourcing is different in terms of the tools to enable learning to happen at a faster rate of pace, faster rate. Class sizes may well be different, and there'll be some other social diverse parts as well.
So, if children are children, are teachers teachers?
Well, in theory, yes, they are absolutely, and it all very much depends on. It's the quality of teaching is really important, but so is the quality of the training to support those teachers. And yeah, teachers will be teachers, but fundamentally, it all comes down to relationships.
Mm, mm. So, you have children, I believe. You have two,
Yep, yep, I do. Florence and David.
Florence and David, and one of them is with you in your school and one of them isn't. Is that correct?
Yeah, so one is with me. So Florence, who has just turned 4, and is telling everyone she is a big girl. She is with me in my pre-reception class and is very much looking forward to reception next year. David, my son, is a chorister at St Paul's Cathedral in London, so therefore needs to board. And he's on a slightly different path. Both my wife and myself were cathedral choristers when we were younger, as I
Right.
alluded to earlier with my own education, and he's very much taken that as his path for the moment.
Right, nice. So we should say then that you're currently headmaster, and I read in one of your bios that you prefer to be known as head learner at the Oratory Prep School, which is outside Reading, which is a day
Yeah,
in
just outside
boarding.
here.
Yep, it's a day and boarding school, prep school for boys and girls aged 2 to 13. So this is a bit different. A lot of our other guests have been representing senior schools. So I think it'd be nice to focus on the younger children as a prep school. So how long have you been at this school? About 2 years, is it?
So this is my third year. This is my third
Yeah.
year, and the school is. I can't give too many spoilers away, but we were inspected a few weeks ago, and it went incredibly well. So we've got lots of
Congratulations.
evidence. But bless you, thank you. Yeah, we yeah, it was a good team effort, but there's lots to be proud of.
Right. I'm sure we'll get into some of that later on. But as the head of the school, I want to understand a little bit about your leadership philosophy, because I firmly believe that as a parent choosing a school, the whole culture and the community of the school is very much influenced by the head. I don't know, maybe do you agree?
I do. I believe that schools take on the unique selling personality of the head or other people in the community. So that may well be the head of music, the head of sport, whatever it may well be. But personalities and relationships, whether that's state or independent, are key and everything to a school. So I would completely agree with you.
Ah, good. That's lucky. So, what is your educational philosophy, if you like, in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, anyone who knows me would know that I don't deal with nutshells very well because I tend
Oh
to
no,
go
that's
on.
fine. We have
No, it's
time.
fine.
Go ahead.
Well, so my philosophy is probably best summed up in two phrases that I use a lot, and my staff would almost say this is bingo in all my staff meetings. So, and to exacerbate that point, or to take that further, last week we had a parent quiz, and one of the questions was finish off. Oh no. Um, what was the question? It was uh, finish off Mr. De Silva's phrase. How can you say the sky is the limit? And you should have heard my staff table. And
When man has landed on the moon.
when there are footsteps on the moon, precisely. How can you say the sky is the limit when there are footsteps on the moon? So that's really key to my educational philosophy. That's one point. And the other part is stop focusing on the destination. Enjoy the journey. Focus on the journey. Live each day. Um,
Mm.
so then I'm picking that a little bit further. So those are the two key foundational points to what I believe in. We do not pigeonhole children to fit the school. The school fits the child presented in front of us. We have no fixed, predetermined destination where these children need to go or our children need to go, although I can talk about future schools and what that means when it gets beyond that to university and so on later on. But our objective is to do one very simple thing: make the leaders of the future and make them better than the ones that are currently here. That's our main objective. And I believe genuinely, and you mentioned culture, and that came up in the ISI inspection hugely. If children are socially and emotionally well, then academically they will thrive because they're happy. When they're happy, they're content. When they're content, they have good relationships with their peers and with staff. When they have those, they want to learn more. They become curious, they become nosy for learning. And it's a perpetual cycle.
This is such a repetitive theme in all of the conversations that I have with educators. But it's, do you feel that the parents are really on board with that? And I suppose your challenge as a leader, I mean, it's a relatively small school, but your challenge is to get them on board, right?
Yeah. And that's where presence as a head is important. That's where communicating the message consistently, coherently is important. That's where understanding and knowing that the parents also have to have the same amount of love that the child has in school. So if the parents aren't okay, then the child won't be okay. But we also need to be mindful that that doesn't mean tail wags dog, but it means that you should listen to the tail. The
Mm.
tail's voice, even though it doesn't have a mouth, is just as important as the rest of the dog, the anatomy of the animal. I'm not trying to compare our school to an animal, so just go with the analogy, right?
Yeah.
So for me, we put on a lot to enable our parents to be okay, whether that's Monday morning parent choir with me, whether that's our swimming sessions, parts of yoga, the quizzes, the curry nights with Mr. De Silva, because I was born in Sri Lanka, so there's only one good curry as far as I'm concerned. So, we
Which
do
is?
lots of, which is Sri Lankan lamb curry. Sri Lankan lamb
Okay.
curry. But I'm biased. But there are so many things that we need to do to make sure that the parents are okay.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder, maybe that's because it's a prep school and because the children are younger, that's probably even more important. But do you also feel like, they're slightly more removed from the stresses of getting into senior school and the stresses of A levels and
Um,
Ivy League, Russell Group unis and all of
yeah.
that?
So our parents are acutely aware of what the future could hold, but they know that they send their children to a school that will, provided that we agree with the parents, will definitely get into their first choice school. So if we look at this year, we're sending all of our children who went for Charterhouse, gone into Charterhouse, Bradfield, St Edward's, Oxford, Oundle, King's, Canterbury,
Abingdon.
Rugby, Abingdon,
Mhm.
Downhouse, Radley,
Wellington
Cranley,
College and Headington.
Wellington, Marlborough, absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. That Queen Anne's, Headington. So we send our children to the right school for them. We used to be linked to the Oratory Senior School, which is not very far from us. We're now completely separate, which
Mm.
means our business model is to get the children to the right school. So our parents know by investing in their child as educationalists, by investing in their child as people and not as accessories or commodities for
Mm.
whatever it could well be, they
It
get their
works.
future. Yeah.
Mm.
Enjoy the
Mm.
journey.
Interesting.
Let's take a quick break to talk about something that can make all the difference for your child's educational journey. I'm thrilled to share that this episode is sponsored by Top Schools, your trusted partner in navigating the complex world of school applications. If you're aiming for a top independent school in the UK, Top Schools offers personalised consulting to ensure your child finds the very best fit with a guaranteed outcome. From identifying those best fit schools to crafting standout applications to invigilating the entrance exams, the expert team is with you every step of the way. Ready to take control of your child's future? Visit topschoolsadmissions.com or click the link in the show notes to learn more and book a consultation today. Use the code DESTINATION for 20% off. That code is DESTINATION for 20% off personalised support for entry into a top independent boarding school in the UK. Now, back to our conversation.
Let's dig into some of the characteristics of the school. So, as I said, it is a prep school, and it's a Roman Catholic ethos, very much so. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what does that mean? And I know that it says that it's a school for all faiths and none. But how does that work in practice?
So in terms of the makeup of the school, we are about 320, 10% of our children are
Oh.
boarders, and about a third of our parents would say that they associate themselves as being Catholic, not necessarily practicing Catholics, but Catholics. So the school was founded in 1859 by someone called John Henry Newman, who is now a saint. So there aren't many schools. I think there's only 2 schools in the United Kingdom that can say that they were founded by a saint since medieval times, and we are one of them. But you can't really hashtag that on a tweet or an X or whatever one calls it now. But what does it mean? In reality, it means I mean, faith is important to me. I'm not a Catholic. I'm the son of an Anglican priest. And faith is important to me as a device to do one simple thing: be the best type of human being I can be. Contribute as much as I can do to make the world a better place than it is. Now, whether someone has a belief in God, great, and that's a family conversation for them, and so on. They believe in YouTube or other social media platforms, less good. That is not the answer to your problems or your questions. But our non-negotiable when it comes to faith for us is that we want children to have faith in themselves. If they have a faith beyond that, fine. But we also, as a preparatory school, we're preparing our children to go to the schools where they will have chapel every day. So actually, whilst we don't have chapel every day, we have mass once a week, and our children get used to that pattern, that rhythm, that drum beat, to get them used to that for the future school. And also, children love structure. Adults, we love structure. I mean, we all love our holidays, but there is a certain amount of, gosh, it's good to be back at school, because roughly what's going to happen. Although actually in schools, you never really know what's going to happen because schools are wonderful organizations. But yeah, that's the faith part for us.
And I think I read, again, because, I mean, pastoral care, we can't have a chat about, young children in especially borders who might be miles away from home. And how then the Catholic faith informs, guides the pastoral care.
Yeah, I suppose the way I look at it, and I must apologise for the Spider-Man mug, okay, because this is not at school. So normally you'll see an Oratory Prep School branded mug, but instead
we
you've
can
got...
superimpose it on later, maybe.
No.
Probably
Go
not,
rock with Spider-Man. Go with Spider-Man. And if you were in my office right now, you would see on my left a grand piano, beautiful wooden beams, and you'll see the wall of Lego behind me. So you're missing out, but instead
we'll
you've got...
cut to some B-roll and we'll edit that in, I'm sure.
Bless you. But you asked about pastoral care. So pastoral care is the foundation of what we do. It's about making sure that children are socially and emotionally well to academically thrive. The Catholicism part of it is really interesting. And when we were inspected, and again, I can't say too much about it, they focused so clearly on our culture in our school because it is so strong. It is so strong. And some of the inspectors put it down to consistent application of policies and procedures, whereas other inspectors put it down to, is it the faith aspect of the school, where actually it permeates every conversation being had. So the way, Ruth, I'm speaking to you is exactly the same way I would speak to my parents or to my children or to my staff, because consistency, kindness is free, right? And we don't need to be hierarchical. We can actually build relationships based on respect. So when it comes to, for me, the golden thread, what is the golden thread of a school? For me, it is that we inspire children to have a faith in themselves by our three virtues, which is to be kind, to be curious, and to be wise. And those are our three non-negotiables. That's what we expect of our children, because that's what we expect of our adults, whether they're our parents or staff. And that's key. Now, in terms of that faith aspect, because of that, it underpins everything we do. It's not what we do, it's how we do it. It's the conversations, the way we have the conversations with the pupils, with the staff, and with the parents. And the layers of pastoral support are significant. And because the members of staff are buying into a school that by its very nature is about humanity first, there is a nuance in the way the staff are compared to other schools. So it takes me right back to what you said at the top of the conversation. Staff will be staff. Yeah, they will, but within the nuance of the setting that they're in. And our staff, no, they come to a place where culturally the school is awesome. Genuinely, it's awesome. Our children, just yesterday, we had another school come to us, a local competitor school, for a football fixture. We won all the games. It was great. Our girls rocked and they were brilliant. But the chap from the other school just said, we love coming to the OPS because the children all hold doors for each other as well as the adults. So that's not normally done. It's normally done because I want to get praise as a child. Our children, because of our pastoral care, see praise as just being the right thing, not the end game. Enjoy the journey.
Interesting. We'll come back to sort of supporting children with supporting children later on. I want to go back to one key characteristic of the school, which I think we can't ignore. I want to ask you, you said you worked in the state sector and you've worked in not-for-profit schools, but actually OPS is a for-profit school with a very complicated corporate structure that I got lost in a bit earlier this afternoon. But maybe could you just tell us a little bit about that? And I think the key really is to understand what does that mean? Should parents be concerned about that? What are the implications, if any?
Well, so let's take this back to when I was a state school head. We were fortunate, and I was really fortunate to have some really good governors, but they were all volunteers. And none of the governors could really empathize with my position because they weren't heads. Now, some state schools do have heads as their governors, former heads of other schools. And then I go to my independent school, my last one. Great school, great body of governors, but again, there was no one who was necessarily able to empathize with the role of being a head as such. So it's kind of potluck as to who you get in a voluntary board. And then the other part is in the state sector, I was able to pick up the phone to any school, even the competitor school down the road, because there was no competitor. It's governed by admissions procedures and so on, and your catchment areas. I could pick up the phone. Sorry, this is my phone. I could pick up the phone and say, I've got this issue. Have you got any ideas? It would be really good to have a chat. But of course, in the independent sector, you are competition with everyone, especially as a boarding school. So then when this role came up, I thought, right, two things. What are the pros and cons? And the cons, the huge cons, the huge pros. There'll be cons with every organisation. There'll be cons with every governing board. But the pros for me, and there aren't many actually with Bellevue at all because it's incredibly supportive. But the pros for me are I can pick up the phone to 21 other heads when I need to, if I need to, and vent and hear and understand and know I've been listened and heard. So that's the first bit. And the second one is the vast majority of my governors used to be head teachers. So they actually know the job. And yes, there's a vested interest in terms of course, they're paid governors, there's a paid board. But the knowledge I've got is superior to anything I've seen before because they've done that, they've been there, they've got the t-shirt, they've got the blazer, they've got the tweed jacket or whatever it is, and they've walked alongside the experience that I have every day. And that's hugely helpful. Then we also have the educational and the infrastructural bit. So governors have spent hundreds of thousands of pounds in the past 2 years on things that if we were a standalone school, would we have been able to have done it? And the educational piece is significant. And again, when the report is published, they are very complimentary about the support that governors give through their extensive knowledge. Extensive knowledge. So when you look at the pros and the cons, it's always about, is the school in a position where it is flourishing? Yes, we're growing 10, 15% each year. Is the school in a position where the governors understand the nuance of the school? Yes, they absolutely do. Is the school in a position where it can continue to grow and spend money in infrastructural bits? Yes, it is, although we've got everything just this year. Just last month, we put in our innovation lab, which is for technology and STEM and STEAM. We're going to be renovating our school library. We're currently ripping out the school kitchen. So it's not what the fear of the institution could be. It's the opportunity.
And I suppose that leads, there is quite a lot of fear in the sector at the moment. I think we've had 16 schools close in the last, 12 months or since the VAT issue. Do you think that going forward we're going to see a lot more of these larger education groups like gobbling up some of the smaller schools? And do you think that for all the reasons that you've just mentioned, that that's probably quite a lot of advantages to that structure?
So I would genuinely say to any standalone school, if you want support educationally, if you want support legally, HR, if you want to have that support as a head, being in a group is great. Being in a group is great. There are always going to be benefits to being a standalone school. There'll always be benefits, but given the headwinds of VAT, the other financial pressures, it is difficult for schools to forecast the future unless they know they have a significantly stable financial model, which we do. We absolutely do. Other schools don't. So, and in the prep sector, there are a lot of schools who may well be thinking, should we join a group or should we join a senior school or whatever? But doing that will change the business model completely in terms of the academic business model as well as the financial business model. But doesn't mean that's a bad thing.
Yes, tough times, huh?
Yeah, but equally fun. So we're currently thinking about how we can save as much money for our parents as possible to make the school fees as affordable as possible, working within what we can do to help our parents. So yeah, it just means that schools and with groups such as Bellevue, we are able to react as a collective and be able to use the shared brain power of 21 schools, a board of governors that are based in London who know the real world, who are finance specialists, head teacher specialists, and so on. The collective knowledge base is significant as opposed to if you are one school.
Just the last point on that. Do you think that there are any concerns? Should parents what questions should parents be asking of the senior leadership team when the school is part of a corporate group?
I think if the parent, it depends what the parents what they're wanting. If they're wanting their child, so for example the OPS, if they're wanting their child to get into some of the world's best schools, well, we do that. If they want their child to academically outperform the competitors in the local market, yep, they do that. If they want their child to come to a school where we absolutely believe that children should be children for as long as possible until the end of year 8, climb trees, do all the things that children should be doing, because that's the lived experiencing. That gives them the life skills that they need to be able to deliver a TED talk, not a classroom experience, then yeah, they can do that. So those are the bits that if I was a parent, I would be asking the schools. Because the other bits that go alongside that, won't be as important as the outcome. It always comes down to, is my child socially and emotionally happy? Are they academically thriving? If not, then unpick the rest. But for our children, as I said, and thank you for finishing off some of the list, because there's a lot of schools that we send them to, we're in a really strong place because our children are awesome because my teachers know how to learn and they know how to teach.
Okay, so let's focus on those two big pieces, as you say, the social emotional learning and the academic learning. So as a prep school, so we also, we're a lot of parents listening from all over the world who might be considering a UK boarding school. So you have about 10% of boarders, you said, which is obviously a small minority. But tell us a bit about where they come from and what's it like as an international boarder, just forming the 10% of the school.
Sure. So the main three nationalities are British, French, and mainland China, so Chinese, with the vast majority. And then we also have a number of Spanish coming in and French. So we have 5 main nationalities in the school. And that makes for a really good balance. It makes for a really good balance because 90% of our school is local British day pupils. Now, what is British? I'm British, but I was born in Sri Lanka. So, British looks and sounds different. But one of the wonderful things we have about our boarding experience from an international perspective is I completely understand the heartbreak that children and mums and dads would go through. Why would a parent send their child thousands of miles across land and sea to get them to a 65-acre spot of land, which is dreamy and wonderful and Hogwartsy and all those bits? But why would you do that when you're giving up the control? You're giving up this perception of love. You're giving up mummy cuddles and daddy cuddles. And what impact will this absence have on their younger brother or sister or whatever it may well be? What impact will it have on their friendships when they come back after holiday? And I understand absolutely what those parents are saying. And then I say to them, but watch what the children have when they're here and watch who they become when they're here. Doesn't mean that they love you any less. In fact, they'll love you more because the time they're spending with you when they're back home is much more quality time. The time they're spending with their friends back home is much more quality. The time they're spending with their peers is much more quality because they come to do one thing: respect and appreciate what they have. Distance can help hugely with that.
So what sort of children or what sort of families do send younger children to board at a prep school?
The ones who are quite brave, actually. And what I mean by that is, I know from my previous school, which went up to 18, that a number of children might come from Hong Kong, for example, to come to the UK to study for GCSEs or A levels or university. But the reason why they're coming is for GCSEs, A levels, and university. Their barometer of success of the experiences that they have are academic only. So the children come and they have their wonderful GCSEs, they get great grades, they go to A levels, get great grades, but the things the child is focusing on is the academic journey. And those children, when they go back to mainland or when they go back to Hong Kong or when they go back into China, they are doing really well in China. They're doing really well. But the children who come in the prep sector, their focus isn't on the academic journey.
No,
Their
they don't have that
focus,
pressure.
exactly, their focus is on the experience. And they are a blank canvas and we metaphorically chuck paint at them and what sticks, sticks, and they become a work of art. But those children who come early go through the process and they're employable anywhere in the world. That's the difference. Those are the parents who send their children to the prep.
They just want them to have longer in that environment to develop as a human, kind human. Yeah, I get that. I mean, There's also been, let's not forget, going back, decades, not centuries, but going back many decades, a lot of the negative press about boarding school and how boarding school damaged me and how I'm suffering from trauma from boarding school. Inevitably, those were the children who boarded when they were quite a lot younger. You hear people talking about being sent off when they were 7. And so do you think there's more of a risk that you have to be, I mean, how do you counsel parents that their children are the right fit, that they are ready to board when they are so young and they're potentially so far away from home as well? It's a delicate.
It is. And the
Mm.
reality is they're never ready, whether they're 7 or 17 or 20. Excuse me, they're never ready. But it's how can the parent, well, firstly, does the parent trust the institution to enable their child to be a child? And that's the difference. If you're sending a child to a school abroad for an exam year, what you're sending them to is and this isn't a criticism by any means at all, but the focus is on the academic journey. Whereas when parents are sending their children for us, they're allowing their children to be children, to make the mistakes, to fail the first attempt in learning, and all those bits. But for me, yeah, absolutely. It is heartbreaking sometimes to think of children being thousands of miles away until, for example, I see them outside my office with a Nerf gun with war paint here, which is just mud, actually, quite frankly. And my Spanish borders, my French borders, and my Chinese borders, and my English borders are all on the same team, trying to pretend that they've got some type of army hand gestures, having the best time possible. We are not a home from home. I get really annoyed when schools use that phrase because we are not here to replace mummy and daddy. We're an extension to the family, and in some ways, we could be more fun and engaging and exciting. Children come to us and they leave us as really emotionally and socially articulate children who are able to do a TED talk at 13.
You've had students do TED Talks at 13, have you?
We've had children do far more than just TEDs. Yeah.
Yeah. What if it goes wrong? Have you got any stories or isolated incidents where potentially it just didn't work out? And why would that be?
Yeah, so sometimes if a child is really struggling with homesickness, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that homesickness can manifest in day 1 or day 30 or year 3. So, and that's fine. And that's genuinely fine because what we don't ever want to do is keep a child against their will. Of course, we're not going to do that. And we don't want the family to go through the stress, the undue mental load of having a child, knowing their child is so upset. Now, the first week can be heartbreaking. But actually, if we look at, we've got one of our wonderful new Japanese boarders who's joined us, and the child struggled with homesickness. But now, all you have to do is watch our social media video, and you can see her leading the dance to what is it? Don't you want me when that one? Okay.
I'm not sure.
The APT dance or whatever it is.
Okay.
And that is the difference. That children
Yeah.
come and find themselves and grow up in our setting hugely.
Yeah, maybe you just take us. Just on the Japanese. I've been hearing a lot of interest from Japan in sending their children to the UK. Are you hearing the same thing? Is that
Yeah,
a
yeah.
new trend?
It's not necessarily a new trend. I think it's because schools are becoming much more acclimatized to understanding that global learning is more than the historic countries that it's been, the bigger markets. For me, Japan, parents are really supportive. I mean, they are, whether they're English, whether they're Chinese, whether they're Spanish or French. Parents want the best thing for their child as much as possible. But Japan is new to us as a school, but not new to me because I've had Japanese boarders before.
Yeah. Okay. Let's deal with the academic piece, probably quite briefly, because I think you've already explained, that should fall into place. That should be the relatively easy part, especially for prep. And I think, I've just clipped a bit that I researched. The Oratory Prep is not an exam passing factory. The intake is non-selective, but the children are streamed as they rise up the years. I mean, could you just tell us about the academics in brief?
So our biggest unique selling point, I alluded to personality earlier, but the point around it is around the variation in the lessons, how the teachers vary the questioning, vary the task design, vary the learning environments to meet the needs of the individual pupils. So yes, we're not selective at points of entry, although we also have to know that we have a critical mass of pupils who are on a flight path to do whatever they can achieve, a meandering path, mind you, and not linear, but still on a flight path. So we are acutely aware of that when we take children into our care and we start loving new children as much as we love our current pupils. So that's really important. In terms of the classroom experience, we are unforgiving with how much we track the children's progress and tweak what we can to give them steps to success to achieve their academic goals. Unforgiving sounds really harsh, and I don't mean that in a harsh way. It's just that we know what children can achieve because we teach them. And I don't mean unforgiving to them because they never feel the pressure. I don't want children to feel that academics is not fun, but it is sometimes tough. It sometimes does make your brain hurt, and that's okay. Do you know, it's genuinely okay because it means that you're achieving something that you didn't necessarily have. But for us, our academic piece is strong. It's strong because we monitor the quality of teaching and learning consistently, pretty much each week. We carry out learning walks, monitoring walks, accountability walks. We interview pupils, we interview staff. We are looking through lesson observations, book looks, planning scrutinies, feedback scrutinies, and so on. We are constantly thinking about how we can improve our feed forward, our feedback to pupils, because it's live marking that helps our children move on. So our academic piece is based on significant amounts of research, but so is our curriculum. Our curriculum is based on making sure that children have the skills of knowing how to learn, not just what to learn. So the metaphorical bit here, because I love my metaphor, is parents sometimes think, and some children think, that it's about passing the next academic door to get into the next room. Our philosophy is live the room first, have a party in the room, make friends, and then you'll burst through that next academic door. Do the same there. Own the room. Don't view the room as a corridor. Own the room.
That's that. I really like that visual because it's such a default position for parents to be viewing it as a corridor.
Yeah.
No, I like that. Thanks for that. The what was I going to ask you? The academics. I mean, again, for international parents that are considering going to the UK, they might have experienced a slightly different curriculum from their home country. How do they adapt? What do you see as any issues, and how do you help them transition into the English national curriculum?
Sure. So sometimes that might be mainly around the acquisition of English, EAL. So they would have some additional English as additional language lessons with our specialists here at school. And the idea is that we transition them out of those so that they carry on. And we know that children who have our lessons, actually, they do really, really well. As you know from the schools that I've mentioned where children go on to, and English isn't a concern when they're in the journey for those schools. But in addition to that, they would have their buddies, they would have their supporters. So one of the interesting things with our boarders, we don't have exeats in our boarding house, but it's amazing how often our international boarders are invited to their friends' houses at the weekends. It's genuinely beautiful to see. So it's not a question of we have foreign borders here, we have English borders here, we have English day people. It's not that at all. That sense of family, that culture that you alluded to earlier is really important. But it's also the Zoom calls before, making them feel part of the family, the pen pal writing, all of those bits, so they start to feel the magic of learning before they've actually entered the classroom.
Yeah. I want to come and visit. I will come and visit.
You
I mean, you're so
do.
close to Heathrow, right?
Yeah, we are 50 minutes by car and about 40 minutes by train. So we're really close.
I'm conscious of time. I'm sure we could talk and talk and talk. It sounds just like a beautiful school. If you were me, what question would you ask yourself that I haven't asked you yet?
Why should a parent send their child to the OPS? That would be
Okay.
it. Why should they send their child to the UK? That would be it.
Let's do both. Let's do the UK first, and
I don't
then
know the
OPS.
answers.
Oh, you don't know the answer?
No, I'll give it a go. Then you can judge. So, UK first, did you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So why would a parent send their child to the UK? Because the UK has a proven track record of academic excellence in a very broad brush, sometimes liberal approach to educational development and pragmatism when it comes to the implementation of the quality of teaching. So the language, the respects, the responsibility, and all that type of thing. So that's why the UK. And there's genuinely so many schools out there that look like Hogwarts, and everyone loves Hogwarts. Well, I do, I'm biased. Why the OPS? Because for all the reasons with the UK, but the difference is when I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. And that's our mindset. Our mindset is that as adults trying to teach the children, we're walking alongside them because we are children. We have no intention of growing up anytime soon. But what we are, because of that, is a school that understands how children learn. We are not here to try and educate them for our world of yesterday. We're here to try and inspire them to want to learn for themselves tomorrow. And the OPS, yeah, we have all the magical parts. We have all the swimming pools, the indoor swimming pools, the theatres, the astroturfs, you name it, we've got all of that. But the most important thing that we have is the relationships that you can see between the teachers and the children, and the relationships, importantly, that you can see between the children and the children. The OPS is a place that is culturally infectious. And whilst lots of schools will believe in the barometer of academics being the only important thing, I mean, I do. I believe it's important, but I believe it's part of the whole. That we have a duty to educate children to be the educators of the future. We have a duty to educate children to be leaders of the future. We have a duty to educate children to inspire the future generation. And we have a duty to make sure that they outperform us. Now, that can be done through being kind, curious, and wise. And that's why the OPS.
So, as the head learner, is that true? You describe yourself as the head learner?
Well, I say so, especially it's headmaster, but I say
Yep.
to the children, I am the head learner.
Okay, I'm the head girl of my organisation, which
Brilliant,
is
awesome, well done.
So part of learning obviously is making mistakes and then reflecting on those and improving, as you just said. What's the decision that you've made that you regret?
Oh, really good question. Decision that I've made that I regret. And this is always opinion related. So when I came here, there was a lot of change because I know that if a parent gives me their child to be taught academically, I have to love that child. That child is mine. And if things aren't to where I need them to be, and I don't mean in terms of staffing necessarily, but if things aren't where they should be in terms of practice, belief, culture, I will absolutely do something about it. So what's the thing that I regret or would have done differently? My honest answer is I don't regret anything because we are where we are because of the choices, whether they're right or wrong, which have fashioned the journey we've been on. Of
Yeah.
course, we're not here to make people's lives unhappy or whatever it may well be, but I'm here to make children's lives happy, and they are my focus.
Yeah. No, fair question. Yeah. Fair answer to maybe a not so great of a question. UK education gets a lot of criticism, especially the state sector, but equally also the independent sector for being super exclusive and unattainable for most. If there's one thing that you could change about UK education, whether it be state or independent, what would that be?
Well, speaking with my state school hat on, it will be around the resourcing, the facilities, and the deregulation of the barometers of success of a school. Some of that's already happened with the taking away of the language in Ofsted. But what I mean by that, sorry, is the exam pressure on younger children. Don't get me wrong, I think children should be sitting exams. I absolutely believe that. Sorry,
Do they sit the SATs? Do they sit those in year 3? Is it?
So they sit them in year 6, and there are some types of teacher assessments in year 2 in the state, but and indeed year 4. But so I think parts of that, the schools here have been heavily judged on the quality of the outcomes of those exams, and actually that's not necessarily fair. I think it's one barometer of what makes
So
a good school.
how do we evaluate schools if it's not exam results?
Yeah, I think exam results should be taken into consideration, but part of the round of the progress of the children. So it's about exams, the attainment, but also the achievements, the amount of progress that the child has made, as well as the breadth of opportunities that children are getting. Because what we know of the future, what we know of the jobs right now is knowledge in terms of prepositional knowledge, knowing stuff. Well, I ask Siri, I ask Google, I ask whatever other platforms are out there. But what I can't ask Siri or what I can't ask Google is how do I comfort a crying parent? How do I comfort a child whose mum has passed away? Those are the human interactions that we need when the world is filling in the gaps for their knowledge. Those are the barometers of success we need to be preparing our children for, their world, not ours.
Yeah, but it's hard, isn't it? I mean, I understand why the state uses these exam results as a way to. I mean, Ofsted really recently did away with this outstanding, good, and then
Yeah,
they've
with the
moved
grading.
to
Yeah,
grading,
yeah.
which is sort of the same as
It's
far as I
exactly
can
the
tell.
same thing. And so's ISI. So both ISI and Ofsted have done that. So the Independent School Inspectorate and Ofsted have done that. And I have no view. I don't mind the language around grading at all, because actually if a school is excellent or outstanding, call it out for what it is. That's great. Well done. But
Yes.
I do think that when children are younger, the practice around exam preparation is what's the point? What's the purpose? Are we trying to get children to pass exams based on knowledge which is short-termism, or are we teaching children how to learn? And there's the difference. Children should be taught how to learn.
And how do we measure that?
Lots of different ways. By the output of their exams is one way of doing it, but by their quality of the work that you see in their books over time, so coursework type of things, as long as it's done in the right way. So listen, I'm in a privileged position here because I'm speaking from an independent school, but we still do exams. We still do common entrance exams for our children come year 8. But we also know that those senior schools will listen to my head's reference on the character of the child more than the academics of the child. And that's the difference. It's about the quality of the person presented in front of them rather than what they've remembered for a test.
And I think that's that again is a common theme, and I think that goes for university applications as well. Again, parents tend to think of it as the corridor, and they tend to think, well, my child has 3 A stars, why weren't they accepted? But the academics are the baseline, and that's potentially the easy piece. It's everything else that the child holistic learning, I suppose, is another phrase that we hear a lot. Thank you very much. This has been fascinating. I do appreciate it. Who would be another fascinating person that I should speak to?
There's a wonderful head I know called Tim at Hampton, Tim Smith. I can put you in touch with Tim.
Yep, I'll find Tim.
He's
We'll find
great.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Tim, I would recommend Tim because his perspective on the educational journey is particularly interesting. So I would have a chat with Tim.
Fantastic. I will do. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate your time. Oh, I wanted to ask you, where are you from in Sri Lanka? Where were you born?
So I was born in home is a village called Nugegoda, which is not very far from central Colombo, but used to take hours to get to. So Colombo.
Right.
Have you been?
Yes, I have many, many years ago. Do you get back there often? Do you still have family?
Yeah, so all families out there. My parents are now back here, but we went out last summer again, and we'll go again in a couple of years' time. But it still feels like home.
Oh, that's nice. I was there for many, many years ago before the tsunami.
Yeah. So my parents took early retirement to set up an orphanage in Sri Lanka. So they've done that and they've come back here. So my father's a retired priest.
Yes,
So
you said,
yeah, lots of wonderful stories around that.
Amazing. All right. Well, we'll have to let you get back to school. You have a school to run. Thank you so much, Andrew. It's been fascinating. Appreciate it.
Bless you. Thank you very much indeed, Ruth, and have a lovely afternoon.